The rain hammered against the windows of Ebon's cramped tailoring shop as Summer watched him struggle with another sleepless night. For 8 months, she had been his everything, his muse, his supporter, his lifeline. While other girls her age partied and lived carelessly, Summer sacrificed her youth service allowance, giving Ebon half of every payment she received from the government. "You don't have to do this," Ebon would whisper as she handed him crumpled bills. But Summer's eyes would sparkle with unwavering faith. "I believe in your dreams more than you do," she'd reply, modeling his latest creations and bringing customers who marveled at his talent. Tonight was different. Ebon sat with his head buried in his hands, shoulders shaking with the weight of failure. The landlord's final notice lay crumpled on the floor, 3 months of unpaid rent, and tomorrow meant eviction. "Talk to me," Summer pleaded, kneeling beside him in the dim candlelight. Her gentle fingers traced his trembling hands as he confessed his deepest fears. "I'm going to lose everything, Summer. The shop, my dreams, my dignity. I'm nothing but a failure." Summer's heart shattered seeing the man she loved so broken. Without hesitation, she made a decision that would change both their lives forever. "I'll talk to the landlord," she declared, her voice steady despite the chaos brewing in her chest. "Maybe I can convince him to give us more time." As she stepped into the storm that night, Summer had no idea she was walking toward the most humiliating proposition of her life, one that would reveal the true character of the man she'd given her soul to protect. Summer's hands trembled as she knocked on the landlord's door, her heart pounding with desperate hope. The overweight man answered with a leering smile that made her skin crawl, his eyes scanning her rain-soaked figure with disgusting hunger. "Please, sir, I'm here about Ebon's rent," she began, her voice barely steady. "He's a good man just going through hard times. Could you possibly give him more time?" The landlord's laugh was cold and predatory. He leaned against the door frame, blocking her path. "Time? I've given him 3 months already." His voice dropped to a whisper that made Summer's blood freeze. "But for a beautiful girl like you, I might consider a different arrangement." Summer's world tilted as he continued. "1 night with you, and I'll wipe his debt clean. He can live here rent-free for an entire year." The words hit her like physical blows. Summer staggered backward, her face burning with shame and rage. "How dare you!" she screamed, but the landlord just shrugged, his proposal hanging in the air like poison. She ran back to Ebon, tears streaming down her face, expecting comfort, protection, outrage. Instead, when she told him what happened, Ebon's reaction shattered her world completely. "Why didn't you agree?" he shouted, his eyes wild with desperation. "It's just 1 night, Summer. How hard could it be to open your legs and let him in?" Summer felt like she'd been struck by lightning. The man she loved, the man she'd sacrificed everything for, was asking her to prostitute herself for his benefit. "How can you ask me this?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "If the tables were turned, I'd do anything for you." Ebon screamed back, his face twisted with selfish desperation. "Just sleep with him, Summer. It's only 1 night." The room fell silent except for Summer's quiet sobs as the man she worshipped revealed his true, monstrous nature. Summer returned home that night feeling like her soul had been ripped apart. Through tear-blurred vision, she called Ebon, offering him the only solution her breaking heart could imagine. "You can come live with me," she whispered into the phone, hoping love could still salvage their relationship. Ebon's response was like acid in her wounds. "How dare you expect me to move into that pathetic little room of yours?" His voice dripped with disgust before he hung up, leaving Summer staring at her phone in complete devastation. Desperate and drowning in heartbreak, Summer remembered Yuna, the wealthy, kind man who'd been pursuing her. With trembling fingers, she called him, faking distress and asking for money. Without question, Yuna transferred the funds, his concern genuine and immediate. Summer raced to Ebon's shop with the cash, her heart still clinging to hope that her sacrifice would remind him of her love. But as she burst through the door, the scene before her destroyed what remained of her world. Ebon stood intimately close to a stunning woman, Pria, his arm wrapped possessively around her waist. The woman was everything Summer wasn't. Dripping, inexpensive jewelry, designer clothes radiating wealth and arrogance. "Oh, Summer," Ebon said with cruel sarcasm. "Can't you see I'm busy? How dare you bash into my shop like you own the place?" Priya's laughter was like broken glass. She looked Summer up and down with pure disdain, her eyes calculating and cold. Then, as Summer stood frozen in shock, Ebon pulled Pria closer and kissed her passionately, his declaration of love echoing through the shop like a death sentence. "I love you, Pria. You're everything I've ever wanted." Summer's envelope of money fell from her numb fingers as she witnessed the complete annihilation of 8 months of devotion, sacrifice, and unconditional love. Summer fled into the storm, her world collapsing with each desperate step. Behind her, Ebon's life transformed overnight into everything he'd ever dreamed of, and more than he could handle. Pria wasn't just wealthy, she was dangerous perfection, wrapped in silk and secrets. She bought Ebon a house, luxury cars, designer clothes, transforming his struggling tailoring shop into a high-end fashion empire. His social media exploded with images of champagne, expensive watches, and the lifestyle he'd always craved. "You deserve this," Pria whispered as she handed him keys to another car, her kisses tasting like victory and poison. Ebon was drunk on success, posting photos that made his old friends green with envy, completely intoxicated by his newfound status among the wealthy elite. Meanwhile, Summer had disappeared completely. Her phone number was disconnected, her small room abandoned. Ebon told himself he didn't care, that he'd upgraded in every possible way. The Lagos trip was Pria's masterstroke. Private jets, political connections, meetings with oil tycoons and government officials. Ebon felt like royalty, completely unaware that he was actually a pawn in a deadly game. But Pria's emergency meeting was no coincidence. As Ebon's flight touched down in Potocot alone, uniformed officers surrounded him at his fashion house like vultures. "You're under arrest for money laundering," the lead detective announced, slapping handcuffs on his wrists as Ebon's world exploded into chaos. "There's been a mistake," he screamed, but the evidence was overwhelming. Bank statements, forged documents, cartel connections, all bearing his signature. His fashion empire had been a front for international drug money, and Pria had vanished like smoke, leaving him to face the consequences of crimes he never knew he was committing. In one devastating moment, Ebon realized that everything he'd gained was built on lies, and the woman he'd betrayed Summer for had destroyed his life completely. 2 years in prison stripped away every trace of the man Ebon thought he was. His handsome face grew gaunt, his eyes hollow with the weight of betrayal and regret. When Pria was finally caught and his innocence proven, freedom felt more like exile than victory. Returning to his village broken and nameless, Ebon found refuge in his mother's tears and the whispered gossip of neighbors who remembered the promising young man who'd left for the city with such grand dreams. Then came the afternoon that shattered what remained of his world. At his uncle's house, Ebon spotted a wedding souvenir bag in the corner, featuring a radiant couple in traditional Nigerian attire. The bride's face made his blood freeze. It was Summer, but not the Summer he remembered. This woman glowed with peace, confidence, and unmistakable happiness beside a tall, distinguished man. "That's Summer," his uncle beamed, completely unaware of the earthquake happening in Ebon's chest. "The governor's daughter. Can you believe such a humble girl came from such wealth? She lived like a Common Core member during her service, never accepting extra money from home. Such principle." Ebon's hands shook as he held the souvenir. "Governor's daughter?" he whispered. "Oh yes. Her father is the Enugu state governor, and Yuna, her husband, wonderful family, oil business connections. The wedding was magnificent. Summer runs charity foundations now, helping single mothers and young women. She went through heartbreak once, some foolish boy broke her heart badly, but Yuna was there when she needed him most." The room spun around Ebon as the devastating truth crushed him completely. The girl he'd told to prostitute herself for rent money was from one of Nigeria's most powerful families. The woman whose tiny room he'd mocked was now living in mansions. The love he'd thrown away for temporary luxury had been worth more than everything he'd ever dreamed of possessing. Summer had found her true worth with someone who recognized her value from the beginning, while Ebon remained forgotten, broken, and alone. forever haunted by the greatest mistake of his life.